What is up? GoodMicWork back at you with a Monday Night Raw review for January 11th, 2016. Today is Monday Night Raw's birthday. The show first aired on this day in 1993, 23 years ago. Unbelievable. It seems like it was yesterday. It was a whole different game being played back in those days when Raw emanated from the Manhattan Center, and I miss those days a lot. So, happy birthday to Monday Night Raw. First of all, I just want to say that if you're noticing any difference in the audio, it's because I finally upgraded my microphone. It's been something I've been procrastinating on forever. It's relatively easy and inexpensive to do, and for some reason I've been putting it off forever, and it just arrived on my front door merely hours ago. So this is my first time kind of fiddling with it. I'm sure I will play with the settings and play around with the audio a little bit to get it just right. So far, I've noticed that the setting I like the most tends to be a little quieter than normal, so you might just have to turn your volume up a little higher than you normally do when you listen to me. I think so far it sounds great, but I have super nice computer speakers, so if you're listening to this on lesser equipment or factory speakers or earbuds or in your car or something like that, I'm not quite sure how this is going to sound, but I will continue to play with the audio a little bit and try to get this right and a little bit better sounding. But either way, this is definitely going to be an upgrade from what you have heard before. For those of you that are listening to me for the first time, I'd like to welcome you to GoodMicWork Commentary's YouTube channel. If you like what you hear, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. I also have a second channel. I would love it if you subscribe to that too. You can also listen to me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, and you can go to my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com, where you can view this YouTube video as well as download an MP3 of the audio of this commentary for you to play at your leisure. Now, as far as what we're going to get into tonight, normally this might be a Raw I would skip, but given the news that broke last week regarding John Cena and his shoulder injury and the return of a big superstar tonight on Monday Night Raw, a Hall of Fame announcement, and a title change, I figured I better come up and do a review of this Monday Night Raw for sure. The show came to us from New Orleans, Louisiana, kind of a dead crowd tonight, which was a little bit disappointing. It really seemed like the crowd was struggling to get behind anything, almost at times seemed like they were comatose, not having a good time at all, and I definitely think that hurt the show. We'll kind of go through step by step on what we saw. We'll start right with the main event situation now. The WWE had announced already that Brock Lesnar would be making his return tonight on Monday Night Raw. Plus, Raw was going head-to-head with the National Championship, Clemson versus Alabama. This game is actually still going on as I'm recording this commentary. It's pretty close, late in the fourth quarter, too, so I'm glad we're getting a good national championship, but that probably was not going to do WWE any favors as far as the ratings for tonight goes. But having Brock there was definitely a big step. You didn't know when he was going to come out. I thought they were going to save him for more of a top-of-the-hour kind of thing, maybe the first or second hour, or even open the show, but they held it off all the way till the end. The show actually opened with all the boys on the stage. A big chunk of the roster just standing out there, and then Vince and Stephanie come out to the ring, still no Triple H, still at home, selling the beatdown from Roman Reigns. You got to think that when he does come back, it's going to be in a big way, and we'll talk about that later on. But Stephanie and Vince get in the ring and start cutting a promo, hyping the Royal Rumble and gloating and seeming very overconfident that they are in fact going to be able to take that title off of Roman Reigns. Vince McMahon basically says that anybody but Roman Reigns, even if it means that someone like Brock Lesnar, the Wyatts come out to a whole separate entrance of their own and are standing outside by the commentary table, and then Roman Reigns comes down from the crowd and interrupts and gets in the ring with Vince and Stephanie and basically asks them, okay, your plan is all fine and good, but what happens if I win? And they kind of laugh and blow it off like Roman Reigns is not capable of winning the Royal Rumble. I don't know if they have a memory that goes back further than a year ago, but it's not all that far out of the realm of possibility that Roman Reigns could actually win the Royal Rumble because he's done it before. No, I'm not completely sure, as I have to admit I was not 100% paying attention. Have they announced what entry Roman will be in? Are they putting him number one? You got to think that maybe the McMahons are going to do something like that, make him the first entrant if they have not already. Now, if he's the first entrant, then yeah, odds are stacked against him, but I don't know. I mean, you would think if they can have the power to make the match this way, they can have the power to put him at whatever number in the Rumble that they want. But still, I don't like this idea that WWE is doing with Roman Reigns where they're putting him against, 10 to 20 guys, dozens of guys. This is the shit they used to do with John Cena. I don't want to see a repeat of that with Roman Reigns. So after what we saw on Raw tonight with Roman Reigns versus the whole fucking roster, and now he's got to defend the WWE title in the Royal Rumble, as long as it's booked and written nicely, I don't really give a shit what they do. But you can't have Roman Reigns mow down all 29 of these men, and I wasn't going to be happy if he mowed down half the roster tonight on Monday Night Raw either. Now, we'll stay on the subject of the whole main event situation. I mentioned Brock Lesnar earlier on. They also showed a spot backstage where Stephanie and Vince are walking through the hall. They're gleeful and happy and dancing around, acting like idiots, and they run into Paul Heyman in the backstage area. And Paul Heyman basically says that he wants his client, Brock Lesnar, to face the winner of the Royal Rumble in the main event of WrestleMania 32. Brock is the big box office attraction, according to Paul Heyman. He's the guy that's going to sell the tickets, and if Vince McMahon truly wants to do what's best for business, he books that match right now. But Vince and Stephanie want Brock to compete in the Royal Rumble match itself. Brock doesn't want to do that. He just wants a title shot, and fuck, who's going to argue with him, right? But Stephanie, Vince, and Paul all go off screen and decide to negotiate what they're going to do about Brock Lesnar. They even cut back to them later on where Vince McMahon is no longer around. Apparently he stormed off, pissed off at the negotiation of Paul Heyman. Stephanie then tries to be the voice of reason and negotiate with Paul Heyman. They eventually do, I guess, work out a deal. And because we didn't see Brock Lesnar all night long on any promo during the show, we knew that he was going to have to make an appearance in the main event. And that's what we're going to fast forward to now. Roman Reigns comes out there to face all of these guys, about 20 of them. Vince and Stephanie bring down a whole slew of heels for Roman Reigns to face, and he actually faces off with Kevin Owens first. And luckily, much to my delight, there was never even a decision in this thing. I was really hoping that the big brawl, because you knew that was inevitable. Once you didn't see Brock, you knew that some sort of a brawl was going to take place with Roman getting beat down by everybody, and Brock was going to run out and make the save. I tweeted that, I think, 5 minutes into the show, so it was pretty predictable that that was going to happen, but I didn't care. I would have loved to see Brock Lesnar come out and help Roman Reigns, and I was looking forward to seeing that. What I did not want to see happen is for Roman Reigns to defeat 10 guys first, and with him being in the ring with Kevin Owens as the first guy, I was like, shit, please don't squash him in 2 minutes and move on to the next guy, but they didn't. Owens stayed in the ring with him for several minutes. The whole thing ended in a no contest and a schmoz and the big brawl that we all expected. Roman Reigns getting the absolute shit beaten out of him, and finally the Beast's music hits and Brock makes his way to the ring and cleans house. And then in also a very predictable moment, you knew he was not going to just pick up Roman Reigns and give him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. You knew he was going to nail that bastard with the F5. That's exactly what he did. Picked him up, nailed him with it, and the announcers basically gave away that Brock would be in the Royal Rumble match itself, and that really, really spices things up. You know, with all of these injuries in the WWE, Brock plain and simply has to compete in the Rumble just to make the damn thing interesting. So now that Brock is in there, you know obviously this is probably going to set up a main event at WrestleMania 32 between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I'm not sure why fans are not completely behind this. If you ask me, when you look at the WWE's roster currently and what they have in front of us, that is the best match for WrestleMania. Their match at WrestleMania 31 was fantastic. I thought it was great. I would love to see a rematch between these two guys, and if this turned out to be the main event for the WWE title, I don't see how anybody complain about that, because these are two fucking badasses going at it for the world crown. And they're also both not John Cena. So if they do go in that direction with Roman versus Brock, which right now it looks likely that they will, and we can debate and figure out who's going to win later on. Let's wait. Let's get through the Rumble first before we start worrying who's going to get the big victory at WrestleMania 32 in the main event. Let's get through the Rumble and see exactly what the WWE does. But you know, eventually they're probably going to have to build to that match. But there's also a wild card in this. Triple H has been off TV all this time, so you know he's going to have to be a factor in this thing too. You know Triple H is going to have to get back in the ring. Number one, WWE's decimated with injuries, and number two, it's WrestleMania season, and Triple H would be in the ring anyway. So Triple H being involved in the main event storyline, I think, is extremely likely, and it's not something that I'm totally against, if you ask me. I was always a Triple H fan. I was always a fan of what he did in the ring. I'm a fan of the way he's handling his new job now with all the success NXT has been having and a lot of the international stars WWE is bringing in, especially with the rumors of the Bullet Club and shit like that. You know this has Triple H written all over it, because Vince McMahon would have no fucking clue who the Bullet Club even was. It's guys like Triple H that are making this happen, and he's the one going out there and brokering these deals. He got Bruno Sammartino into the Hall of Fame. That's something we never thought we would see happen. So I am not a hater of Triple H, and I do not shit on the man. And if he wants to be involved in this world title storyline, I'm fine with it, because, you know, we're missing a lot of top guys right now, and Triple H is still in good enough shape and healthy enough that he can work and perform at a high level, I believe. So a Triple H sighting in the Royal Rumble, or some sort of a surprise, I think is very, very likely. Now, as far as how they do it, You know, you got Brock in there, you got Roman in there. So you guys can kind of tell me how you would maybe book this thing. Don't worry about so much about who's winning and all of that. I don't really care about that. But what would you like to see that would be interesting? And if Triple H got in there somehow, would he be in the middle of the Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns confrontation? You know the big showdown will have to happen at some point in the Royal Rumble between Roman and Brock. If Roman has been there the whole time and he's survived and then Brock comes out at the end, you know, Brock walking out of the Royal Rumble with the WWE title seems extremely likely. But is that what WWE's going to do? They're going to put Roman Reigns in another title match as the challenger and give him another big moment. He had that big night on Monday Night Raw. The WWE, I think, originally might have wanted to put the belt on him in the main event of a WrestleMania one day, but given the way everything went in 2015, I didn't think they would really do that at WrestleMania 32. So now it looks like it's an option again. But what if Triple H's involvement was something like, you know, let's say during the Royal Rumble, you know how every year or every few years, especially back in the old days, it seemed like every year one person would not show up when the buzzer went off. It would just be nobody. It seemed like they went with that an awful lot. So let's say like midway through the Royal Rumble, the countdown starts, the buzzer goes off, and nobody comes out. No music, no nothing. It's just nobody. Or you can play somebody's music. Play fucking, I don't know, play Kalisto's music and then don't have him come out. I don't know. Just make it to where no one shows up. And then after all 30 entrants come out and Roman Reigns wins and his music is playing and he's celebrating, Triple H can come into the ring, technically as the 31st entrant, but he would still be the 30th man, and he could then dump Roman Reigns over the top rope and win the WWE title with literally negative effort. Maybe that could possibly lead to a WWE title match at Fastlane between Triple H and Roman Reigns, where Roman Reigns defeats him and then goes on to WrestleMania to defend against Brock Lesnar. Something like that. I don't know. It seems like there's a million different ways they could do it here. I don't know. Could you do a triple threat at WrestleMania? I wouldn't want to see that. I'd rather Brock and Roman work one-on-one. Not having Triple H in the mix as a three-way, I don't think that would be very good for your main event. But if they went in a different direction and had Roman Reigns and Triple H finish out their feud at WrestleMania and the two of them went one-on-one with or without the title, you got to wonder where that leaves Brock. Now, one thing I like about Brock Lesnar being in the Royal Rumble is it opens up the doors for so many possible confrontations in this thing. We already saw one dream confrontation briefly tonight on Monday Night Raw when Brock got in there and suplexed Kevin Owens. I think that would be a great feud and a great match one day. Unfortunately, Kevin Owens is not, I believe, at the level to where they can push him to a main event draw in time for him to work with Brock at WrestleMania 32. So I think as awesome as that feud and match would be, we got to put it out of our minds because I highly doubt the WWE would do that, at least this year. But Brock is going to need an opponent if he doesn't work with Reigns or Triple H or both. So you got to wonder who that might be, and that could be set up in the Royal Rumble match itself. I don't think they will do Taker. I mean, they billed that Hell in a Cell match as the last time ever they are going to wrestle, and if they did it a mere months later, I think that would be really fucked up. So I am going to count Taker out as an opponent for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So you got to wonder what they're going to do, and I think in the Royal Rumble, if Brock Lesnar is going to work with someone else, that's where the big confrontation will happen, and he's now in there with a whole bunch of guys we want to see him work against. We can get confrontations now that we've all been dying to see as wrestling fans involving Brock Lesnar. So the Royal Rumble is going to be filled with those types of possibilities. Plus, if the WWE is smart, they're going to put a whole shitload of surprise entrants in this thing, including one guy in particular that I'm really starting to think might show up in the Royal Rumble, and that's Daniel Bryan. There has been a lot of Daniel Bryan chatter lately. He himself has been tweeting that he's been working out as if he will one day return to the ring. You have to wonder if he's been cleared and the WWE is okay with putting him back in, but they're just holding him off. Basically, probably the way the WWE feels, the longer they hold him off, the better. So if he's cleared to work and they still want to hold him off for a couple of more months until the right time to re-debut him, then that can work in their advantage too. And if he does show up in the Royal Rumble as a surprise entrant, that can be huge. Imagine the pop. The only problem with that is the fans will probably want him to win, and I don't think he really should. He has been very injured in the past couple of years and extremely unreliable, and I think to bring him right back and give him a main event spot in his first match back when you don't even know how he's going to perform yet, now that he's back from his injuries, you got to make sure he stays healthy first. He's got to wrestle, in my mind, balls to the wall for several months to a year before the WWE feels confident enough to put the belt back on him. But, still him being in the Royal Rumble and being another major player that is back, it's star power that the WWE desperately needs, and he can can definitely set himself up for a major WrestleMania match as well, and he could go back after the Intercontinental title, maybe U.S. title, something like that. So Daniel Bryan, if he does come back, even though I don't see him winning the Royal Rumble or being involved in the main event situation or title picture, I still see him doing something very significant at WrestleMania. So I'm hoping Daniel Bryan is able to get his ass back in the ring in time for the Royal Rumble, because it would be great to see him in that match. Now, I'm also curious of how they build to WrestleMania after the Royal Rumble, because as we now know, there is going to be no number one contender anymore, because the winner of the Royal Rumble will be WWE champion. So that means they have to crown a number one contender. I'm guessing that will take place at Fastlane. Some match will take place. Now, that's another way they could go. Maybe Brock can win the Rumble and win the WWE title, and then Triple H and Roman Reigns can wrestle at Fastlane, and the winner goes on to challenge Brock for the title, with Roman Reigns, of course, winning and going on to beat Brock at WrestleMania. They could do something like that. Would kind of be a short title reign for Brock, though. He'd win it at the Rumble and drop it right away at WrestleMania. For a guy as unstoppable and beast-like as he is, I would hate to see Brock go down that quickly, especially when Roman will probably be one of his only title defenses. He might have one other one, but if he wins the belt at the Royal Rumble, he's going to defend it a maximum of 2 times. And I don't know if I would like to see him lose one of those 2 times. I'm a big fan of Brock. I love seeing him kick everybody's ass, and I like seeing him in the monster role that he currently has. So, I guess we have to wait and see. One thing I said in my last commentary after the John Cena injury is that I have confidence, a bizarre confidence in the WWE, even though they give us shitty Raws sometimes and the booking is garbage and this shit is really for little kids, it seems like these days. They always pull a rabbit out of their hat at WrestleMania and provide us with some good, memorable moments. And I think the WWE can build us a good WrestleMania without the big names that they have. Other guys can step up. The matches are going to be great. There's going to be a lot of surprises. I think the roster will look a lot different by the time we get to WrestleMania, when you consider some of the international talent they've recently signed, plus some of the NXT guys that most likely will be up on the main roster by the time Mania gets here, and some of the surprise entrants that I'm sure they will have in the Royal Rumble. I think the WWE can still put on a great, compelling show without all of the big names that are currently missing. And there are a lot of them, but hell, it's up to Roman, it's up to Brock, it's up to everybody else, Kevin Owens, Del Rio, Kalisto, all these guys to carry the load, and I think they're going to give us a good WrestleMania. Call me crazy. Now let's get into what else we saw on Monday Night Raw, just as the National Championship game has wrapped up. Alabama did win 45-40, hell of a game. Congrats to the Crimson Tide. Really didn't care who won this game, but I was kind of rooting for Clemson just because they were undefeated, and I usually like to see when teams do that. Anyway, back to Raw. The other big announcement tonight is that Sting has been announced as the first inductee into the Hall of Fame, and he will no doubt be the headliner. I just speculated on the Hall of Fame not that long ago in my last couple of commentaries. We knew the first inductee was going to be coming soon. I had a feeling it would be tonight. It does turn out to be Sting, and I am 100% on board with that. Don't have any problem with that at all. Sting is an absolute icon, one of my all-time favorites in professional wrestling, and I admire the man so much. I've said this a million times because he made it to that icon status. He made it almost to the same level as a Hulk Hogan or an Ultimate Warrior without working for Vince McMahon. You have to understand what an amazing achievement that is, knowing that the NWA and WCW did not have the same type of marketing team and promotional skills that the WWE and Vince McMahon had, and for them to build all those stars in the 80s like they did, all those cartoon superheroes in the WWE, nobody was able to come close to recreating that except for Sting. And I've said time and time again, imagine if that Sting, imagine if 1980s and 1990s Sting did in fact work for Vince McMahon, how much bigger he would have been. WCW had a little bit of merchandise. Sting had some lunch boxes, and he had some t-shirts, and he had a few dolls and toys and shit like that, but it would have been 10 times bigger in the WWE. I'm curious who's going to induct him. I would have to say a few candidates might be someone like Lex Luger. If Luger can pull himself together, I think he can. Jim Ross would be another great choice. Jim Ross would seem likely, actually, as he still is on relatively good terms with the WWE and does some things and projects with them from time to time, so for him to come in and induct a big-time NWA, WCW star like this, I think would be perfect. Eric Bischoff could even be another guy. Dusty Rhodes, if he was still alive, would be another candidate for Sting. Even Hulk Hogan, if he wasn't in hot water with WWE. So there's lots of guys out there that could induct him, but right now my early pick would be Jim Ross. But congratulations to Sting. So happy for him. As far as who else is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I don't know. I haven't heard any rumors. I definitely have mentioned that I really want to see Demolition. They would be top of my list. Ravishing Rick Rude would be another guy. Big Van Vader, Sid Vicious, Undertaker, Kurt Angle. There's lots of guys that you could name that would be great entrants into the Hall of Fame. You got to think that they're going to go with a few more underneath guys. They can't all be main eventers, so that's why I really hope we do see a tag team like Demolition get inducted, or a semi-mid-card and former world champion Ravishing Rick Rude would be another guy that could go on the underneath part of the Hall of Fame show. Maybe a Texas Legend, if there are any of them out there left that haven't been already inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I wouldn't mind them going with a WCW theme and putting in Sid and Vader and maybe the Steiner brothers and guys like that. I would love to see a few of those guys go in. I think that would be really fun to do. And next year, of course, they're rumored to be in Minnesota, and I would like to see that have a Minnesota or AWA type of vibe to it. That would be a good year for Demolition and Ravishing Rick Rude and X-Pac and Eric Bischoff and guys like that. People with Minnesota connections going in could be something nice for next year. So Sting being the headliner this year definitely makes the Hall of Fame exciting, as it usually is every year. I've had very few letdowns when it comes to the Hall of Fame. Every year it's just so fun to watch these guys revel in their careers in the spotlight and give them their moment and their speech and their plaque and their time to be recognized for all the hard work they put in. So congratulations to Sting. Super happy for him and excited to see what the remaining inductees will be for this year's Hall of Fame. Now, as far as the matches go on Monday Night Raw, I'll kind of go in order of how we saw them. The show kicked off with Dean Ambrose versus Sheamus. This match ended in a double DQ, I believe, and Kevin Owens came out and attacked Dean Ambrose, furthering their storyline and angle and feud over the Intercontinental titles. Sheamus got busted open really bad. Looked like he got hit when Dean Ambrose threw him into the post and ring steps. And the camera briefly showed him with a crimson mask on his face, as Gordon Soley would say. Pretty rare to see that kind of stuff, so obviously that was hard way because they wouldn't have him bleed on TV on purpose. So Sheamus has a boo-boo. I hope he is okay. We also saw Cody Rhodes versus Titus O'Neil. Big shout-out to Cody. Of course, as we all know, the world lost David Bowie yesterday, and it was a huge tragedy for someone like me, a big-time classic rock and music lover. David Bowie is an absolute icon, and I have shit tons of memories of him and listening to all of his great albums and music over the years. There truly, truly was nobody like him at all, and it was so sad to hear of his passing. And I was wondering if Cody would do something, because I immediately thought of Ziggy Stardust, and I was like, man, it would be cool if Cody came out to that name or something like that. But instead, he had his face paint done as a tribute to David Bowie. Thought that was really cool. He took on Titus O'Neil in a meaningless feud. I don't even know why these guys are feuding with each other. I think Stardust could be so much more. I like Titus O'Neil. I'm a big fan of his. He got the victory, by the way, in that match against Cody. But still, Stardust or Cody Rhodes is such an amazing wrestler, and I don't even care that he's not Cody Rhodes. The funny thing is I'm in favor of the Stardust character. I think Cody, he struggled to find his niche as just Cody Rhodes. He was dashing Cody Rhodes. He was in tag teams. He seemed like he had multiple gimmicks, and he just never was able to find it. But for him to follow in the footsteps of his brother, who made such a career for himself and the huge legacy of Goldust that spanned 20 years, for him to pick that up as Stardust, I thought was actually really cool. And Cody is kooky as fuck. All those promos that he cuts backstage, those are so incredibly, I think, entertaining, and he's so good at what he does, and I just wish the WWE would put him in bigger angles and bigger storylines, and I think the Stardust character would be much more over. But instead, he's pretty much a pre-show guy, and he's not doing much of anything at all. Now he's feuding with Titus O'Neil for some reason, complete mismatch on paper. Don't even know why these guys have an issue with each other, and Titus got the victory, and good for Titus. I like him, but, I would really like to see them utilize the great talent that is sitting underneath that goofy-ass outfit. And Cody knows what he's fucking doing in there, and on top of that, his dad was kind of good. You would think that you would want to push someone like this, so I don't know. Hopefully one day WWE will just remember that he's on the roster and say, hey, why don't we do something with this kid? Chris Jericho was also back this week with a brand new edition of the highlight reel, and his guests were going to be the New Day, who he interrupted and pissed off last week. The segment was pretty bad, full of a lot of bad jokes, although Jericho did put out a little tribute to Lemmy and David Bowie, which I thought was awesome. But some of the one-liners and the back and forth between New Day and Jericho was, I don't know, just made me cringe a little bit. And of course, that set up a tag team match because the Usos came out to, I don't know, just interrupt the fucking promo. I don't even remember what they said. But Jericho decides that they should have a tag team match between Kofi and Big E against the Usos and Xavier, or as Chris Jericho called him, Javier. One of my favorite things about Jericho is how he always mispronounces people's name, calling Lillian Garcia Vivian, Mark Henry, Mike Foley, Vance McMahon. Shit was great back then, and it's nice to see him still do that sometimes. But him and Xavier were going to be on the outside of the ring during the tag team match. The Usos end up getting the victory, and in bigger news, the WWE sustained yet another injury. I mean, I don't know what this company is going to do. You know, first Cesaro goes down, Tyson Kidd goes down, Seth Rollins tears his ACL, Randy Orton is out for God knows how long, Sin Cara is on the shelf, John Cena, the face of the company, goes down with a shoulder injury and is going to miss WrestleMania 32, and as if that weren't enough, the WWE now has to lose the trombone. And there's no telling how long the trombone will be out. I don't know if any of you have gotten word about what the prognosis is. I'm guessing surgery will be required. And for something like that, you would have to think at least 6 months, at least as long as John Cena's out, right? So hopefully by the summer, we'll see Randy Orton, John Cena, Seth Rollins, and the trombone all back on the main roster. Fuck, I cannot wait. We also saw the Wyatt family come out for a promo, and they were interrupted by, of all people, the Social Outcasts, the brand new faction that was formed last week. Curtis Axel, Heath Slater, Adam Rose, and Bo Dallas. They come out there and actually get in the face of the Wyatt family and challenge them to a fight. I was actually hoping Bo Dallas would turn on the Social Outcasts and join up with his brother and be the newest Wyatt family member. I think he'd be a great member of the Wyatt family, especially if he grew some facial hair. That creepy-ass voice of his, oh man, seems like Bo is tailor-made for a faction like the Wyatt family. But I was pretty surprised that these four doofuses came out there to challenge the Wyatt family. I didn't know if they had a death wish or something, but it turned out to be an impromptu 4-on-4 match, and before a decision could be rendered, Ryback, of all people, comes out there for some reason and helps the Social Outcasts run off the Wyatt family. So the Wyatt family did not completely kill, rape, and destroy the Social Outcasts, which means they will live to fight another day. So I guess good for them. But it was just basically the WWE's way of illustrating how it's every man for himself at the Royal Rumble or whatever the fuck. That was pretty much the only point of the entire match and segment, that and another opportunity to get the Social Outcasts some TV time and try to get them over. We'll see how that goes in upcoming weeks. There was supposed to be a match between Brie Bella and Charlotte, but the match never got underway. Becky, who was attacked, as we saw last week, by Charlotte and completely beat down after she beat Charlotte in a one-on-one match, storms out to the ring and kicks the shit out of Charlotte, and Ric Flair gets so pissed off that he says his daughter won't be wrestling tonight, and the match never fucking happened. Ric Flair, incidentally, is on the Stone Cold podcast that came on immediately following Raw. I didn't check it out. I kind of wanted to eyeball the football game a little bit, and I wasn't expecting anything huge to come out of that, so I didn't think there was a reason to wait and review Flair on Austin's podcast. I've heard Flair in millions of interviews. I don't think they were going to tell me or us anything that we already didn't know. But I will still check it out in the next couple of days, and I will watch it, and maybe I'll tell you what I think in my next commentary. The final match I want to talk about, that I know a lot of you guys are wondering, why the fuck is GoodMicWork not talk about this match yet? Well, I was saving the best for last, and one of the bright, delightful surprises of Monday Night Raw is that we saw a new United States champion crowned. Kalisto, of all people, beats Alberto Del Rio clean. Now, a lot of people are wondering, is the WWE pushing Kalisto? Now, I say, you might as well. I mean, first of all, Sin Cara is on the shelf, right, with a shoulder injury as well. Everybody hurts their shoulders. I don't know what's going on. But he's not around right now. We know WWE is trying to build another big Latino star. Rey Mysterio is obviously getting too old. Even if they brought him back in at this point, he can never be that face that he once was, and be over with everybody and be their big, Mexican star. This guy, Kalisto, WWE seems to like him. I don't know too much about his background or where he came from, but he's a hell of a little talent, and he's very good, very entertaining. He's not even that bad on the mic, and I think if they wanted to give this kid an opportunity and push him, I'm all for it. Now, the only thing that worries me is that this U.S. title reign is going to be short-lived. I would like to see him hold it for a little while, but I'm thinking this is just a feud to give Alberto something to do. Maybe these guys have a match for the title at the Royal Rumble, and Del Rio wins it back. And even if that happened, I can't really complain about it, because a guy like Kalisto, who's basically a pre-show guy, I mean, think about it. The Lucha Dragons are either working for the tag belts or they're wrestling on the pre-show of pay-per-views. They're not really heavily featured and heavily spotlighted ever. Now you got a guy that's holding the same belt that John Cena just held a couple of months ago. He beat the guy clean that beat John Cena clean. I hope that this is not something that's temporary. I hope this is not something that WWE is doing until Sin Cara gets back. If you ask me, you don't need to reunite the Lucha Dragons. The tag team situation, the WWE, I don't know, it's not that strong right now, and I think losing a team like the Lucha Dragons would not be that bad if you wanted to push Kalisto as a single. You can even have Sin Cara come back and the two of them can feud when he gets healthy again if you want. But if they want to make Kalisto a major singles player and put him in the ring in one-on-one matches against guys like Neville and Dolph Ziggler and people like that, I think is completely fine. And he can be, maybe they can get him over the same way they got Rey Mysterio over. I mean, he looks the same. He looks like a cross between Rey Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon. Of course, he's got that lucha style, which is so incredibly fun and exciting to watch. And I, for one, am happy that Kalisto won the title tonight. It was a nice surprise. And as long as it's not done as just a temporary fix to give Alberto something to do and then give them a title match and a title change at the Royal Rumble, you know, as long as it's not done just for those reasons, then I'm 100% in favor of it. And I hope it works out really well for Kalisto. So congratulations to him, new United States champion. If you would have told me 3 months ago when Cena was holding the belt that Kalisto would be holding it just a couple of months later, I would have thought you were crazy. You got to know Alberto's coming for him, though. I mean, Kalisto scored 2 straight victories over Alberto Del Rio, with the first one being on that inaugural SmackDown on the USA Network, which I think is the last TV appearance we saw of John Cena, because I know John Cena was out at ringside during that show, or during that match, excuse me. And, by the way, I do want to comment on the brand new announcer. I believe his name is Mauro Ranallo. So many great things were said about him on the first night of SmackDown. I happened to be on Twitter at the time that SmackDown was on, although I was not watching SmackDown. And fan after fan was commenting about how awesome of an announcer this guy was. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. And I couldn't wait to hear this guy, because if the fans were getting that excited about an announcer, you know, fans generally, you know, hate commentators. You know, they always have something shitty to say about them. Very few guys are liked across the board. Really, Jim Ross, maybe 1 or 2 others. Everybody else is completely shit on. Look at what we say about Michael Cole. So the fact that there's a guy out there that the fans are respecting, you know, I mean, Joey Styles and Jim Ross and Gordon Solie are about the only guys I can think of that the fans universally like. So the fact that I was hearing all this good feedback on this announcer, I couldn't wait to hear him. So I checked out a little bit of SmackDown just to hear his voice, and I thought he was really good. And I saw a WWE.com exclusive or a YouTube exclusive or something, some video where they interviewed him backstage after the show, and he sounds like a very, very passionate wrestling fan. And I think wrestling hopefully will be lucky to have a guy like this. And you better look out, Michael Cole. This guy's pretty badass. He might be coming for your job. So I guess that's it for tonight. I'm going to get out of here. Let me know what you thought of the show. I know the show wasn't that great, but considering you had Brock Lesnar lay out Roman Reigns and Kalisto won the U.S. title is kind of significant and a pretty decent show, I would say, for the 23rd birthday of Monday Night Raw. Definitely could have been better. WWE could have put forth a better effort. The fans definitely could have put forth a better effort, and hopefully we'll have a better Monday Night Raw next week. So take care. I'll catch you next week after Monday Night Raw. I probably will not come up with a video before then unless some major news breaks in wrestling that I need to talk about beforehand. Otherwise, I'm going to spend the week working on my WrestleMania Memories commentary that will be uploaded in about a month or so. That thing is going to be fucking awesome. I will catch you guys later. Until next time, peace.